Amongst every show, there comes ideas from fans who like to try and connect dots to explain certain characters. Each character is unique in their own way, and it should be their own life experiences that have shaped them into the iteration that we view currently. One character who raises a lot of questions in RWBY right now is Summer Rose, RWBY's mom. What happened to her, what she was like, anything. All seemingly a mystery. Or is it? Much like anything, we must start from the very beginning. We know Summer Rose has been dead since the show's start. It's one of the first established events fans were told of. In the Red trailer, Ruby's standing over her mother's grave. So knowing nothing about how she died, the next bit of information we were given about Summer was finding out about Team Stark. Summer was in a team at Beacon alongside Ty, Raven, and Qrow. Having not been given any sort of backstory so far, it's up to fans' imaginations to picture what everyone used to be like. Raven, as of Volume 5, has gotten on the wrong side of a lot of the audience, and many assume that what she is like now is what she was like then. I can't dispute that because the show doesn't give us anything to build from. The only bit I can bring up in the case of Raven is that she's actually smiling in the picture. Does that mean Raven used to be a different person and have a different attitude in the past? Perhaps, but once again, nothing to go on. I also remind you in this picture that they were also students. They were formed much like Team RWBY, meaning they were around the same age as them. Most logically here, each of them would be around 20 to 21 at most. Just comparing each of them side by side, you can tell that a good chunk of time has passed. Ty is slimmer and noticeably younger when compared. Raven, as mentioned, had a smile on her face, but now you could see how jaded and untrusting she is of things. And Qrow more or less looked the same, just he was clean. And Summer, we have absolutely nothing to go on. But what do we know for certain about Summer? The thing about Summer that a lot of people misconstrue is that they believe Summer is a complete mystery. She isn't. We know not much about her, but basic facts. The most interesting thing is that Yang remembers Summer. Yang used to think that Summer was her mom. She called her a super mom and she remembers her cookies. And that's interesting because that's not that long ago. It's not recent by any means, but there is this time frame. Shortly after Team Stark's graduation, we can assume that's when Yang was born. Raven then left to return to her tribe, and about 2 years later, Summer and Ty get together to have RWBY. Yang isn't going to recall events that happened when she was 3 or 4. The age of memory is placed at around 7. That's when you really start to actively form memories and can recall them with accuracy. It's hard for people to correctly call to mind events before that age. That idea is only strengthened by the story Yang told in Volume 2. She recalled the events that happened. She remembers being told that Summer was dead. She remembers what happened to Ty and how torn up he was about it. There's many details that she clearly recalls, but she said RWBY was still too young to get what was happening. That's because Yang was over 7 and RWBY was under that age, so she wasn't going to accurately recall the event. She was still torn up about it at the time because her memory then is still working, but as she grew up, the events of that day became a blur and almost impossible to recall. It's why Yang thought Summer was her mom. She had no memory of Raven. Even if Raven had stuck around for a year or so, Yang would never have remembered it. So, considering that Yang is 17 to 18, depending on where you want to place it in the series, Summer died about 10 years ago while out on a mission. So, now that we've been given a time frame of when she died, let's look at what people talk about the most: Qrow. In Volume 4, Chapter 9, while Qrow is unconscious by the poison, he mutters to himself,
"She's not coming. Ty."
Based on the story Yang told in Volume 2, everyone was informed that Summer had died, and Ty ended up shutting down because of it. So here, it would appear as though Qrow was the one who told everyone of Summer's death. If he's the one who informed everyone, logic stands that Qrow was there when she died. It's why he's not trying to say, maybe she's still alive. It's a, she's not coming. He's trying to gently break the bad news to Ty. So if Qrow is so certain of Summer's death, how did it happen? The specifics I don't believe anyone is really trying to nail down, but Qrow's involvement in it many people come to the conclusion of. Qrow's semblance is bad luck. Unlike most semblances, Qrow has no control over who it directly affects. Anyone and everyone who is around him can be in danger of facing that fate. The theory here is that Summer had gone out on a mission with Qrow, and as bad luck would have it, led to the death of Summer, forcing Qrow to inform Ty and everyone of her death. Earlier I mentioned how each character's unique life events should shape them into who they are today. Summer's death and Qrow's potential involvement in it explains his drinking. While I'm sure there are few who would try and say that there's no real meaning behind it, that it's just part of his character. He just drinks to drink, it makes him look cooler. He's a drunken fighter, it stops his semblance. I've heard all those in the past, and to those people I say, it would actually do harm to Qrow's character if there's no meaning behind it all. Qrow is one of the audience's favorite characters. He's the cool uncle in every sense of the term. But that doesn't mean that dark side of him shouldn't exist. Something happened in his past and he's drinking to make it go away. Alcohol eases the conscience. It'll make you lose memory from time to time. But what if it wasn't Summer's death that led to his drinking? Well, it seems to be the only thing that has any sort of weight behind it. I brought this up in the Is Qrow Ruby's dad theory, but I must bring it up again for this one. Qrow carries a picture of Team Stark on him at all times. When it comes to the majority of people, the only time you carry around a picture of someone or multiple someones, it's because you care about them in one way or another. And in this picture, Summer seems to be the reason he holds on to the photo. We've seen that Qrow and Ty can talk whenever as they are on decent terms. Raven is more shaky, but they are still siblings who keep in touch from time to time. Summer is the only one in the picture Qrow can't see anymore. His picture is covered in tear stains from crying over it, and the bit I failed to mention last time was the ring around Summer. Before I said it was unknown, but later I came to realize that it was the condensation from a glass that he used to cover her up. He couldn't bear to look at the woman he got killed, so he got drunk and cried. So then, if that's the case, what's driving Qrow now? This sense of responsibility to now take care of the daughter of the woman he got killed? No. It's not responsibility that's driving Qrow, it's guilt. Responsibility is voluntary. Guilt isn't. Guilt is an emotion. You know you did something wrong, and that's what drives Qrow to take care of Ruby. He now feels as though he has some sort of responsibility to take care of her. But the thing about that is, how long does that last? A life for a life? Will Qrow watch over Ruby until he himself dies, thus repaying Ruby for the loss of her mother? That's the thing about guilt. It has control over you, not the other way around. But most importantly, if all of this is true, the biggest question that could possibly be asked is, who knows? Does Ty know Qrow got Summer killed? Raven? If Qrow was responsible for Summer's death, which characters are aware of this fact? Ruby obviously isn't aware as she knows nothing about her mother already. Ty, as a father, had a tendency to hide the whole truth away from his daughters. He never told Yang about Raven, and same goes for Ruby and her silver eyes. Ty kept a lot of truths away from them, so it wouldn't be likely that if he was aware that Qrow's bad luck got Summer killed, he would tell Ruby. He'd keep it a secret like most things. Qrow was usually the one who would inform the girls on more detail-centric information. But if he were the focal point to a loss like that, I'm sure even he would keep that a secret from Ruby. The thing here though would be Tai Yang himself. If he was aware that Qrow had gotten his love killed, you'd imagine things may be a bit more rough when it comes to those two. You could argue here that it was 10 plus years ago since Summer's death, that perhaps Tai was incredibly angry at Qrow, but over the past 10 years he came to realize that Qrow didn't intend for Summer's fate to end up the way that he did, that he's just as distraught as he is. So, in a sense, he's forgiven him a bit. Just not entirely. In the Volume 3 finale, we saw Ty give Qrow this look of anger as he left the room, almost to say, "You almost got her killed as well." Another thing I wanted to bring up as well was from Volume 5, Chapter 6. When Qrow is going around looking for huntsmen, he goes up to this house looking for a woman. A child then shows up at the door asking if he knew where her mother is, to which Qrow then apologizes and leaves. In general, you'd like to believe that's a response most people would give. The interesting bit here is what happened after. Qrow reached for his flask, stared at it, and then put it away. To the best of my memory, that is the first time we've seen Qrow choose not to drink. He was drinking earlier this episode, he drinks while on the job, he drinks in his free time. Qrow seemingly never stops. So what made him stop here? Well, if everything I've said so far is true, then it would be the mirrored memory of Ty and Ruby, a father and his daughter losing their mother and Qrow being the only one at the door to relive a loss like that. He's drunk so much since then that having to be reminded like that actually had the opposite effect it did last time, in which instead of making him drink, he put it away. But after all of that, all the story and Qrow's character, what do I think about it? I think it actually holds a lot of weight and things kinda just make sense as a whole. I'd wager to guess that this is the show's intended purpose for setting up Qrow and his drinking as well as his semblance. It's just a matter of time until they reveal what exactly happened and how RWBY is ultimately going to respond to that news. If this is not the case, then I believe a lot of depth with Qrow specifically gets lost. The reason he drinks, why he's so adamant about watching over RWBY, so much would be reduced if this isn't what the story has planned out. But ultimately, this is a theory, and I want to know what each of you guys think. Do you, like me, believe that this is the development the show has been setting up? Or do you believe something else entirely? Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and in the meantime, be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're interested in more content like this, consider becoming a sponsor over on Patreon. You get all the content early, and it really does help out the channel. Be sure to follow me on all social medias, and I'll see you in the next video.